I should have been at work that afternoon. I should have never come home early. I should have never looked through that window. But I did. And what I saw, my wife, Camilla, in the arms of my best friend, Easton Blake, right in his living room, shattered me. Her hands gripped his shoulders the way they used to hold mine. His mouth traced the skin I once worshipped. The way she moaned his name, so raw, so hungry, was a sound I had never heard from her before. I stood frozen, my world crashing around me in slow motion. My wife. My best friend. Right next door. And in that moment, I knew. I was about to become someone I never thought I could be. If you love shocking, dramatic, and unforgettable infidelity stories, make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single story. Let's dive into this dark tale together. It started like any other afternoon. I had left work early, something I rarely did, because of a last-minute client cancellation. I was looking forward to surprising Camilla. We had been distant lately, and I thought maybe a spontaneous lunch together could help bring us closer again. But as I pulled into our driveway, something felt off. Camilla's car wasn't in the garage. That wasn't strange on its own, she often went out during the day. But when I glanced toward the Blake's house next door, I noticed the familiar shape of her red heels discarded carelessly on their porch. My heart clenched. A sick feeling crept into my gut as I walked closer, my steps slow, hesitant. I didn't want to believe it. But curiosity is a cruel thing. It pulls you forward even when you know you should turn away. Through the slightly parted blinds of the Blake's living room, I saw them. Camilla. Easton. Their bodies tangled together on his couch. My best friend's hands roamed over my wife's skin, and she arched into his touch like she had been starving for him. The way she gasped, whimpered, moaned his name, it wasn't just lust. It was passion. It was familiarity. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This had been happening. My throat went dry. My fingers curled into fists. I felt like a man watching his own murder in slow motion. How long? How many times? Did they laugh about me afterward? I wanted to storm in. I wanted to rip them apart. I wanted Easton to feel the same pain he had just inflicted on me. But I didn't move. I stayed right there, watching, letting their betrayal sear into my brain like a permanent scar. Because now, I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was a man with a reason to destroy them. I came home early. I looked through the window. And I saw my wife, Camilla, wrapped around my best friend, Easton Blake. They weren't just cheating. They were devouring each other like they had done this before. That moment should have broken me. But it didn't. Because now, I wasn't thinking about heartbreak. I was thinking about revenge. I didn't tell Camilla I had seen them. Not yet. Instead, I walked into our house like nothing had happened. I made dinner. I kissed her on the cheek when she came home. And when she lied to my face, telling me she had been at the store, I didn't flinch. Because I had a plan. And it started with Jasmine Blake. The next evening, I knocked on the Blake's door. Jasmine opened it, her auburn hair falling in waves over her shoulder, her blue eyes widening in surprise. Wesley. Hey. She glanced behind her. Easton's not home yet. Good. That's okay, I said. Actually, I was hoping to talk to you. She frowned. About what? I took a slow breath, letting the weight of my words sink in before I said them. About your husband. And my wife. Jasmine's grip tightened on the doorknob. Her lips parted slightly, like her brain was trying to reject what she had just heard. What? She whispered. They're having an affair. She let out a choked laugh. Not a laugh of amusement, one of disbelief. No. No, Easton wouldn't. He would, I cut in. And he did. Her breathing turned uneven. Denial cracked into something worse, realization. I knew that feeling. That slow-burning horror of your entire world collapsing in an instant. But she wasn't ready to believe it yet. "You're wrong," she insisted, shaking her head. "They're just close friends, that's all. Camilla, she comes over sometimes, but it's never." "I saw them," I said, my voice calm but final. Jasmine flinched. I could see the moment it hit her. She wasn't just hearing a possibility anymore. She was hearing the truth. She exhaled sharply, pressing a hand to her chest. How long?" I shrugged. "I don't know. But it wasn't their first time." She turned away from me, her whole body tense like she was fighting not to collapse. But she wouldn't. Jasmine was stronger than that. And that's exactly why she fit into my plan perfectly. When she finally looked at me again, her expression wasn't just broken. It was cold. Calculated. "What do we do?" she asked. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "We make them pay." A storm flickered behind her blue eyes. A slow, dangerous realization of what I was suggesting. I wasn't talking about just exposing them. I was talking about something worse. Something unforgivable. And the way Jasmine bit her lip, hesitated, considered, I knew she wanted it too. "We do it together," I murmured, letting my fingers brush over hers. She shivered, but not from fear. From something darker. Something like desire. Because what better way to destroy a marriage, than to destroy it from the inside? Jasmine exhaled slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "When do we start?" I told Jasmine the truth. Her husband, Easton. My wife, Camilla. They were cheating. At first, she didn't believe it. But once she saw the truth, she didn't cry. She didn't break. She wanted revenge. And so did I. So we made a plan. A dangerous, reckless plan. And now? It was time to put it into motion. The first step was simple. We had to act normal. Jasmine and I both knew that if we wanted to turn the tables on Camilla and Easton, we couldn't let them suspect a thing. So we went home, ate dinner with our spouses, smiled like everything was fine. Like we weren't secretly plotting behind their backs. But that didn't mean it was easy. Every time I looked at Camilla, I saw her hands on another man. Every time Jasmine kissed Easton, she imagined his lips on my wife. We were living in a lie. But soon, they'd be the ones suffering. The next afternoon, I texted Jasmine. "Me, tonight. Your place." A pause. Then. "Jasmine, are you sure?" Was I sure? No. But I wanted to be. I needed to be. At exactly 8 p.m., I knocked on the Blakes' front door. Jasmine opened it immediately. She looked different. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, her lips slightly parted, her breath uneven. Like she had already made a decision she couldn't take back. "Come in," she said. The house was dimly lit. Too quiet. Too intimate. We sat down on the couch, but the space between us felt suffocating. The tension was unbearable. "We don't have to do this," she whispered. I laughed, a dark, humorless sound. "We both know we're past that point." She swallowed hard. "What happens after?" I didn't have an answer. Because right now, I didn't care. It started small. A brush of fingers. A lingering touch. Then Jasmine moved closer. Too close. And I didn't stop her. Because at that moment, I wasn't thinking about Camilla. I wasn't thinking about Easton. I wasn't thinking about anything except Jasmine. Her lips were soft. Her body was warm. And for the first time since discovering the truth, I felt something other than anger. I felt power. I felt control. But mostly, I felt alive. And I knew there was no going back. It started as a plan for revenge. Camilla and Easton betrayed us. Jasmine and I were supposed to expose them, to make them suffer the way we had. But instead, we crossed a line we could never undo. Now, the sun was rising. And the reality of what we had done was finally sinking in. The room was quiet. Too quiet. I could hear Jasmine breathing beside me, but neither of us spoke. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts a tangled mess. The weight of last night pressed down on me like a vice. The heat of her skin, the taste of her lips, the way she whispered my name, it was all too fresh. Too real. But now, in the cold light of morning, I wasn't sure if I had won, or if I had lost everything. Jasmine shifted beside me. I felt her sit up, wrapping the sheets around herself like a shield. She didn't look at me, but I could feel her thoughts spinning. "What now?" she asked. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair. I didn't have an answer. Was this the revenge we wanted? Had we evened the score? Or had we just become exactly like them? I don't know, I admitted. She finally turned to face me. Her eyes were unreadable, but there was something behind them, something dark. "Do you regret it?" she asked. I should have said yes. I should have lied. I should have told her this was a mistake. But I didn't. Because the truth was, I didn't regret it at all. That should have been the end of it. One night. One act of revenge. We should have walked away. But something had shifted between us. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was something worse. Something that pulled us back in. The next time we saw each other, we didn't hesitate. There were no excuses, no second thoughts. Just want. And before I knew it, the plan for revenge had turned into something far more dangerous. Something we couldn't stop. Something that had the power to destroy us all. There's a moment in every affair when reality crashes in like a tidal wave. The stolen glances, the reckless passion, the thrill of secrecy, all of it drowns under the crushing weight of consequences. For me, that moment came on a quiet evening when I found an envelope sitting on my doorstep. It was unmarked, just a plain white envelope resting against the wood. My hands trembled as I picked it up and stepped inside, locking the door behind me. Camilla was upstairs taking a shower, unaware of the storm about to hit our marriage. I ripped it open, and my breath caught in my throat. Inside were photographs. Not just any photographs, pictures of Jasmine and me. Kissing. Touching. Meeting in hotel rooms. My entire body went cold. Someone had been watching us. I flipped through the images, my heart hammering against my ribs. Some were taken from a distance, us standing too close at the grocery store, our cars parked at the same rundown motel. Others were intimate. Close-up shots that made my stomach turn. And at the bottom of the stack was a single piece of paper with one chilling sentence. "Secrets don't stay buried forever." I staggered back, gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. Who did this? Who knew? Jasmine. I grabbed my phone and dialed her number. It rang once. Twice. Then she picked up. "Did you get one too?" Her voice was strained, barely above a whisper. I squeezed my eyes shut. "You got one?" "Yes," she said, voice shaking. "Easton found it first. He hasn't said a word to me yet, but I can feel it, Wesley. He knows." I ran a hand through my hair, pacing the room. This was bad. This was very bad. "We need to find out who sent these," I said. "If Easton knows, he could." "Could what?" Her voice was sharp now. "Expose us? Ruin our marriages? Maybe we deserve it." I swallowed hard. She was right. But the fear of losing everything had my mind spiraling in every direction. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house made me think someone was watching. Every time Camilla moved beside me, I felt the guilt burning through my skin. And then, the next morning, the first bomb dropped. Easton showed up at my house. I barely had time to process what was happening before a loud knock rattled my front door. Not a casual knock. Not a neighbor dropping by. This was a demand. A warning. A storm waiting to be unleashed. I swallowed hard, my heart slamming against my ribs. Easton. Camilla was upstairs, oblivious. If she came down and saw him standing there, everything would explode in front of her. I couldn't let that happen. With a deep breath, I pulled open the door. There he stood, Easton Blake. His jaw was clenched, his eyes burning with something dangerous. He didn't say anything at first. Just looked at me. Through me. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. I hesitated. "Sure. Let's go outside." I stepped out, closing the door behind me. The air was thick, suffocating. Easton didn't waste time. He threw the first punch. It landed hard, a fist straight to my jaw. My head snapped back, and I stumbled, tasting blood. "You think I didn't know?" he seethed. "You think I didn't feel it? The late nights, the way she looked at you, like I wasn't even in the damn room?" I wiped my mouth, forcing myself to stay steady. "I deserved this. I didn't mean for it to happen," I muttered, my voice hoarse. His eyes flashed. "You didn't mean for it to happen." He let out a bitter laugh. "You didn't mean to screw my wife. You didn't mean to betray me. My best friend." I had no defense. There was no excuse for what I had done. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a deadly whisper. "Did you think she would leave me for you?" He scoffed. "Because she won't. She never would." I flinched. It was the truth I had been avoiding. Jasmine was never going to leave Easton. This was just a game to her. "How did you find out?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "The photos. The one someone had sent us both." His jaw tightened. "That doesn't matter." But it did. Someone wanted to destroy us. Before I could ask more, the door behind me creaked open. Camilla. She stood in the doorway, her eyes darting between us. "Wesley. What's going on?" Easton didn't look away. "Why don't you tell her?" I froze. "Tell me what?" Camilla's voice was sharp now. "Suspicious." Easton tilted his head, a cruel smile creeping onto his face. "Go on, Wesley. Tell your wife the truth." I couldn't breathe. This was it. The moment where everything I built came crashing down. And then, before I could speak, Camilla's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Her eyes scanned the screen. And then, her face changed. A sharp breath. A slow, painful realization. She lifted her gaze to me, her hands trembling. She knew. The photos. Someone had sent them to her. My world shattered in an instant. And there was no way to fix it. The silence in our house was unbearable. After Easton left, after the rage settled into something colder, Camilla didn't speak to me. Not that night. Not the next day. Not for weeks. She packed a bag and took off to her sister's house. No explanation. No goodbye. And honestly, I didn't deserve one. I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at my phone, waiting for a text that never came. Jasmine never called. Never checked in. I was nothing to her now. Maybe I had been nothing to her all along. I heard things through mutual friends. Easton didn't leave Jasmine, not yet. But their marriage was hanging by a thread. He didn't trust her anymore. And Jasmine? She was different now. Restless. Reckless. Rumors spread that she had been seen with another man. Maybe more than one. It wasn't just me. Easton had been blind to it for years, and now, the truth was tearing him apart. 3 months after it all fell apart, I got a letter in the mail. From Camilla. I opened it with shaky hands, reading her words over and over again. I hope one day you figure out why you did this. Not to me. Not to Easton. But to yourself. Some mistakes you can't take back, Wesley. Some wounds never heal. I won't be coming home. And just like that, she was gone. I lost my wife. I lost my best friend. And for what? A few stolen moments. A secret that was never meant to last. I played with fire. And in the end, it burned everything to the ground. Some betrayals you move on from. Some you carry with you forever. And this one? I'll never escape. That's the end.